What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here with another episode of Metal Milestones. So I wouldn't normally do 2 episodes of the same series in a row, but there was just no way I was going to skip out on talking about this album. So today is the birthday of one of my all-time favorite albums, and that's King Diamond Abigail, which was released on October 21st, 1987, 30 years ago, y'all. So this was the first real entrance into metal in general. This was, again, in 9th grade, just like Carcass that I talked about in the previous episode. And this was towards the beginning of the year. I remember being at a pawn shop in Conyers, Georgia, and they had 3 King Diamond CDs. They had Abigail, Them, and Conspiracy. And Conspiracy was the one that caught my attention because of the awesome cover art. I had no clue who King Diamond was. I'd never heard of him, but I was like, this has to be awesome. I knew what black metal was, but I wasn't really listening to it yet. So seeing the cover of Conspiracy, I thought it was a black metal album. So I bought all 3. And when I got home, I listened to Abigail first because it was the oldest of the 3 that I bought. When the album started, it had me mesmerized from the first note. I wasn't familiar with this kind of music at all, but I loved it. The chunky guitars, the melody of the solo from Michael Denner that starts off the first song, Arrival, and then when those vocals came in, I was like, what the fuck? Through the summer rain of 1845, the court had finally arrived. I've been practicing that for years. This was a sound I would have never imagined myself being into, but I loved it. And then when that mosh part hit, you know, the part where he says, people blame it on the hill, I was just like, oh shit, this is so good. And it just seemed like every song as it went along got better and better. A Mansion in Darkness was really fast, and those riffs were just fantastic. And I loved how King Diamond had multiple voices that he used when he sang, like the kind of lower pitched growl that he does, the more mid-range yell, and then that patented high pitched just wail that he does. And the way he laid them out seemed to be purposeful and assisted the story so well. Like, he had a knack for conveying the gravity of a situation and the surroundings with just his voice. And the great thing is that it was so epic, but it was also really dark. It was kind of scary, and it was also really catchy. Like, take a song like 7th Day of July, 1777. In 1777, on the 7th day of July. Like, that song immediately stuck in my head, and to this day, it's one of my favorite songs from this album. And the riffs throughout this song are just great. It's here that I kind of started to pick up how great Tim Henson's bass work is, because for the most part, it's kind of buried a bit in the mix, but he goes along perfectly with the rhythm of the songs. And it's also on this song where I started to pick up how great Mikkey D's drumming is. Like, it's fast, it's precise, each hit perfectly placed. Another one that gets stuck in my head really easily, Omens. After you hear that song once, you cannot get that hook out of your head. Deadly Omens! But it's the title song, Abigail, that's easily my favorite song on this album. Here, it wasn't just the hook that gets stuck in your head. It's that main riff, the way it goes perfectly with the verses. Abigail, don't you think you know what you've done? If you listen to this song, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This song has just some of the best riffs on the album. And of course, the solos here are just fantastic. The team up of Andy LaRoque and Myke Denner is one of my favorite team ups in metal. Like, not sure which one I think works better together, this one or the team up of Myke Denner and Hank Sherman. But, you know, you all can argue about that in the comment section, all 3 of you that actually know what I'm talking about. But I remember sitting there for the whole 40 minutes of this album with the lyrics in front of me, just in a trance. You know, I couldn't take my eyes off it. Like, I wasn't super familiar with concept albums either, so reading along to this story while this fantastic epic metal was playing in the background was new and just awesome. And the story in a nutshell, for those of you that haven't heard this album, it's, you know, a family moves into a house, the house turns out to be haunted, chaos ensues. And if you like stuff like H.P. Lovecraft or Thomas Ligotti, I feel like this story is right up your alley. But overall, I think this album is absolutely a masterpiece. It still holds up today as the band's best work. I've heard plenty of people complain about certain aspects of the album, but the things that they complain about are the things that I love the most. King Diamond's voice being one, which a lot of people hate. I think it's fantastic. It can be grating for some, but to me, I think it's absolutely beautiful. Like the operatic feel of it, it assists in the storytelling so well. And of course, people think it's cheesy and they think that there's no way that a voice like that can really sing Satan's praises, but I think those people are completely incorrect. Another complaint is the huge number of solos. Some people think that they break up the story too much. In my opinion, I think they help the story along. They come in and they let you breathe and process the chunk of story that you've heard before that. Some people think they border on needless wankery, and in my opinion, they're played so well and they add so much to the songs that they just fit. And I just couldn't imagine these songs without them. Not only is this album heralded as the first horror-themed metal concept album, it's held as one of the best, if not the best, metal concept albums, period. Like, if it had a great story and weak music, or a weak story and great music, then I don't know that we'd be sitting here discussing this album the way we are now. This music on this album, in my opinion, is impeccable, and the story is great, even if you read it without the music. This is an absolutely incredible album. 30 years later, it hasn't been touched, not musically, not conceptually, and certainly not vocally. So if you've not heard this album, make sure you go give it a shot. If you have heard this album, hey, let's talk about it. Drop some comments in the comment section down there. What's your favorite song? What's your least favorite song? Where did you first hear this album? What attracted you to King Diamond's music? So that's going to be it for this one, guys. As usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you. Please don't die, and I'll see you guys next time. All right?